Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Laurel Rodriguez, and I am the Director of Marketing at SureImpact. Today is the final session in our four-part webinar series, Level Up Your Team's Impact. Today, you'll learn how to communicate specifically to your development team about the ways that impact measurement generates higher revenue through increased donor engagement, winning grant applications, and outcomes-fueled storytelling. Our speaker today is Sherry Cheney-Jones, founder and president of SureImpact. Sherry is a social change entrepreneur, an expert in social impact measurement, and a thought leader in applied organizational research. She believes in data, metrics, and accountability. Sherry is passionate about women's equity and the advancement of girls. She is a past Columbus chapter president of the National Association of Women Business Owners and a commissioner for the Columbus Women's Commission for the Mayor's Office. Feel free to enter comments in the Zoom chat. And with that, I will go ahead and turn the time over to Sherry.
Thank you, Laurel. I am so honored and excited to be with you today to talk about, as development professionals, or if you're communicating with your development professionals within your organization, why it is so important to have impact measurement, how to use impact measurement, how to fund impact measurement. We are going to dive deep in this particular webinar. So as a development professional, as an executive, as a fundraiser, as someone who is responsible for raising money for your organization, I know, based on my own personal relationships with development directors and fundraisers, I don't have to get you all excited about impact measurement. You understand why it is so important. When your organization has impact measurement, you are able to be more successful. One of my long-term colleagues and friends, Christy Farnbaugh, a consultant with Strategic Links. She's also the current executive director for the Contemporary Theater here in Columbus. I've worked with her for decades now, and she always said to us, we absolutely love it when they work with us, because she doesn't have to make stuff up as a grant writer, as a development professional. But the reality is that the majority of her clients did not have data to support their assumptions or decision making. So she was left with telling good stories, telling good narratives related to the value and impact of the programs and services. But when she had organizations who were working with us, who had that data at their fingertips, she was so much more successful for her clients, was able to help them raise more money, secure more grants because of that data. And we'll talk a lot about, as development and fundraising professionals, how you can leverage this information. If you don't have this information, how you can work with your teams to gather it, collect it, what you need to do, what they need to do in order for you to be the absolute most successful organization you possibly can be. Here is a end product that, when you have impact and outcomes data, that will help you drive your organization forward. So this is the 2022 Impact Report from the Seymour Institute. They are a foundation that partners with over 160 nonprofit organizations across the United States, and they leverage matching dollars from United Ways. But they were able to use all of their data that they have. They use SureImpact to help them do their work, help them leverage their story and better understand what they do, how well they do it, and how people are better off. So not only are they able to communicate in their annual report how they've essentially more than doubled the number of families they've served through their organization, they're also able to talk about how much it costs to serve one family across the network, and how that particular investment, it has increased. A lot of it is increased because the needs of families have increased as well. And if you dive even more deeper in their impact report, they talk about those growing needs. But what they're also able to tell in their story is the percentage of families who successfully completed their program. And not only just a total number of families that successfully completed, but making sure that they have equitable outcomes. And they're quickly able to look at their data by race and gender, ethnicity, to demonstrate that all groups across the nation that are being served through the Seymour Institute funding have equitable outcomes. And using this data, sharing this data, has allowed them to increase their partnerships, raise more money, secure more resources to invest back into the community. You can see how their total investments have also scaled and grown throughout the years. And then part of that is because of the data they're able to provide and tell their story. And so this is kind of the end product, right? What are you using your impact measurement data for? Do you have it so you can put it in your annual reports? Do you have it that allows you to communicate to your funders to secure those grants? And why it is so important, I get this question asked to me all the time. Well, why is it that it's so important? Aren't stories the best thing for us? Don't we need to just be telling great stories and great narratives? Absolutely, you do need stories, but you also need data. And here's why. I love Chip and Dan Heath, their Made to Stick book. It really outlines a great model for why we want to make sure that we, as development professionals, those of us who are responsible for going out into the world, sharing the stories of our nonprofits, convincing others to come join us in our mission through their dollars and through their giving, why we need both, and why, I'm going to share some research later in this presentation, but why when you have both types of data, you are more successful. And so part of it is data allows you to share unexpected information, which gets people, according to the research of Chip and Dan Heath, gets people to pay attention. When you can share data that says something about the community you serve, maybe it's something like we have Sure Impact users that know that when clients come to them, less than 5% of those clients that they serve have income self-sufficiency. So let's say that's your case, you're helping people move out of poverty, and you have real data that shows that when people come to your organization, less than 5% of them have income self-sufficiency. That's unexpected information. That's going to get somebody to say, really? Wow, there's really a need here. I want to do something about that. I want to help you. And it's also something that's very, very concrete. It helps people understand and remember your organization. So back to that Seymour Institute an example, when they're able to talk about, 87% of our families successfully complete our program, and our outcomes are equal across race, ethnicity, and gender. That's very, very concrete. It's something I can understand about your organization. Or if you're able to say, hey, we move families where only 5% had income stability, and once they leave our program, now 85% have income stability. I can remember that. That's 80% of families are getting better because of your work. I can understand it. I can remember it. It's very concrete. Another reason that data is so important, especially if you're using a tool like Sure Impact that allows you to standardize, how you collect data, how you analyze data, how you look at data, and the measures that you use, it makes you credible. It makes you look like an organization of excellence, an organization that's committed and serious about your mission and what you do. Now, that's why data is so important. Now we go back to the emotion and the stories and why these are so important. And it's because the emotion, when we tell a story, someone now cares about our work because you contextualize it. You put the human around the data. You put the human around the numbers. And so if you tell a story about a particular family you served that went from, not being income self-sufficient to going through your program, and at the end of the day being, positively self-sufficient, and you tell their story, now I care about them. I care about your mission. I know how to act. I know how to give. I know how to be part of the change. And so that's why when we put them both together, we'll have the most successful outcomes. Another reason that data is so important, especially today in 2023, as we think about our end of year appeals and our end of year giving, is that the new generation of donors desire to be champions of change. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago in Florida, and they were talking a lot about this transfer of wealth that's happening in philanthropy. We're seeing a lot of families wealth transfer as the baby boomers move on to the next phase of their journey. And as they're transferring their wealth, this current money that's going to the next generation, it's not necessarily dedicated to giving or philanthropy. Those next generation of donors or those next generation of wealth receivers, they can use that money for a lot of different things. They can invest it. They can buy a big house with it. They can, do all kinds of things with it. And are you ready to be a part of their strategy to handle that wealth? And what this next generation of donors is looking for are to be those champions of change. They want to invest in nonprofits who can demonstrate to them, or work with causes that can demonstrate to them how through their investment that organization is delivering social change, is increasing impact. And so that's where your role in using impact data is going to position your organization, as the leaders that this next generation of donors desires to partner with and grow. So we have there's two options for us as an organization. If we're going to use impact measurement to drive social change, to increase our fundraising, to increase our sustainability in our organization. Now, the manual approach is likely the approach that you are used to, the approach that you've been living in for a very long time, but we're going to talk about a new approach as well. Now, the manual approach is one you probably are all very familiar with. You find an opportunity, you realize that your funder is asking for outcomes and measurable results, and you then have to go ask your program staff for data. So as the development person, oh, I need this outcomes and impact data. Or if you're an executive director, you have a pitch for a big funding opportunity, you need that information. But then you have to go to your team, or I've heard stories of executive directors who are spending hours in the nights and on the weekends just pulling through their data in order to make sense of it for their grant applications or their board meetings or their pitches. So you have to then go bother yourself or somebody else for all of that information. And if there is data, your program team is going to spend hours pulling that data together, trying to make sense of it, to give it back to you. And if there is no data, you'll have to tell a story. You'll have to give some case studies. You will then have to show the funder what you will do in the future to measure things so that you can continue to keep that funding. And then when you win the grant, and I've seen this happen a lot, you're now scrambling to figure out, oh, how are we going to measure the thing that I just told my funder I was going to measure and report back to it so that we can stay ourselves in good graces. So this likely is very familiar to many of you. That's likely the environment that you are currently working in. And we don't blame you. We know that this approach was the manual approach, and that's why Sure Impact came into the world. That's why we created Sure Impact, because we believe there should be and can be a better way. We believe that impact and outcomes data should be automated in your organization. It should be something that when you have an opportunity as a development and fundraising professional, you're able to have those insights at your fingertips, and you don't have to bother anyone about where the data is, how to look at the data, how to use the data. You have access to that information to help your organization succeed. And so the automated approach to fundraising, how Sure Impact helps their organizations, is they're able to, when you find that opportunity, you have that pitch, you have that particular grant, you can log into your impact measurement software. You can look at your outcomes and outputs and outcomes and impact in your dashboard. So that information is right there, already analyzed for you, already prepared for you. You put it into your grant application. You're going to win the grant because you're going to have all the data they need, and they'll be excited to be your champion of change with you. And then you just keep doing what you've already been doing. It's not a big struggle. It's not a big hassle to now try to reverse engineer what you're doing to fit this new grant funders' desires or requests. And Sure Impact now even has several of our users have their funders are using Sure Impact too. So in that case, you were eliminating the need for reporting. You just have seamless data share with your funder. So there really is no more end of year grant reports just automatically sharing data so that you can demonstrate the impact that you're making and have more data-driven continuous learning and improvement conversations with your funder instead of more of those just end of the year reports. So that's how we're going to be successful. And so in order to have that impact measurement, what do you need? So many organizations are on a journey. They need to know where they should start, making sure that you're collecting the right data so that when those opportunities arise, you're able to quickly leverage the data you do have and go tell your story so that you can win those grants. So the first thing you must be collecting is who you serve, and not just number of people served, but what are their unique characteristics? Because many different funders have different priority areas. Maybe they want to invest in certain zip codes, or they want to invest in certain population groups. So you as a organization need to know kind of who is it your target population, and can you demonstrate that you are serving and meeting the needs of that population? Second, what did you do with those individuals? What services do you provide? And not just, again, a count of the number of services, but can you look at across population groups how you're serving them? Are you serving different population groups differently? And what are you doing with them? The third is you need to talk about how are the people that you serve or the communities that you serve better off? What has changed as a result of your services? What those mission statements you have on the wall, how do you quantify that? How do you measure that? How do you know? And then again, what is the relationship between who you're serving, what is happening to them, and how they are better off? And then you wrap all of that around with a qualitative, you have your qualitative stories as well as your quantitative stories. So when you're collecting the right data, you can then tell the story in numbers. You can talk about the number of people you serve, the breakdown by race, gender, zip codes, what happened to them, what did you do with them, what services did you provide, and then the percentages that are better off, and tell that quantitative story, and then wrap that in a qualitative story where you give your case study or your use case. It says, here's what happened with everyone we serve. Now let me tell you about this one particular client who was a model of success. And so in a true example, this is a great example of how one nonprofit married the quantitative and the qualitative story. So Arts Possible is an statewide organization based in Ohio that works with children with disabilities, and they provide art residencies in the schools, and they pair both typical peers with children with disabilities and are trying to increase literacy and language, but through arts. And so Arts Possible has they evaluated using data their particular program statewide, and they're able to tell that quantitative story. They're able to talk about they served 2,000 children last year, and 52% were student of disability. So again, communicating to their funders, this is the impact across the state that we have. Half of the children we serve do have disabilities. And then they move on beyond just outputs to outcomes and talk about how the school administrators, 100% of school administrators they work with, agreed that this program impacts student learning. So it's not just a nice to have, it's a, hey, this is helping our students learn. 80% of the teachers agreed that they saw the programming increase their students' creativity and appreciation of art. So it meets some art standards. And then even going beyond that, they were able to look at student rate of literacy growth before and after the program. And because of the way they had person-centric data and the way the data is structured, they were able to show that there was an 18% increase in the rate of growth in reading fluency scores compared to the rate of growth before. So when students were engaging in this program, their literacy skills were improving at a greater rate. So that's all great. And that's a great, hard facts in order to help a funder rationalize the decision making with their brains, and with logic and reason. And we don't have the slide in here, but they also, as part of their pitch, they tell a very compelling story about how two students, both named Jada, are working together to learn a dance through movement. And one of the students is blind. And this blind student and the typical peer student was working with the student that was blind and helping her learn the movements of the dance. And then that particular child was able to go out, perform on stage in front of all of her peers, in front of her family, and the joy and the pride that experience brought her was, that particular experience is priceless. So they use this story, this illustration of what their program does, and then they mirror that with these data and statistics. And this program continues to get funded year after year, be able to grow year after year because of this data. So how do we get there? How do we empower our teams to allow us to have this information at our fingertips when we need it, and we make it easy for them so they're not, running around chasing, having to do a lot of busy work when a grant opportunity comes around? Well, it does require some different ways that we do things within our organizations, because if we want to do something we've never have, or have something we've never had, we have to do something we've never done. It's kind of the role of life, right? If we want different outcomes, we have to do different behaviors. And so same thing with impact measurement. If we want impact measurement and the results in analytics at our fingertips to allow us to better tell our story, to go raise more money, to secure those grants, we have to do things we've never done before. And therefore, we have to let impact measurement be a culture of impact measurement across our organization. And that's where technology like Sure Impact is so important to your organization to allow you to do this. I was talking to someone this morning, and they said something about what's so great about Sure Impact is it just does our work for us. It makes life so much easier for us to have what we need when we need it at our fingertips and meet us where we are. So first and foremost, whether you currently have a technology system or you're thinking about implementing one, here are some things to think about as you move through the journey so you have what you need at your fingertips to better tell your story. The first thing you need is you need it to be very, very easy to use for your staff that are directly interacting with the community that you serve. So you need something that's very easy for them to log into, to just track whether it's the notes of who they're serving, the notes of what they've done with them, the outcomes that they're seeing, and just quickly enter that information so they have everything they need to do their job, and it's easy and it's not cumbersome, and they can kind of put in their day-to-day work in that particular technology platform. And there has to be something in it for that program team. And this is where I know a lot of organizations rely on Excel or Google Docs to help them manage their program data. But the reason that is not the best approach, although it might feel like it's the best approach, is because there's really nothing in it for the person who's there entering the information. They get no feedback. They get no value back at it. And here at Sure Impact, we believe that all individuals across an organization should have a feedback loop about their work, and not just put data into some we called it black box in the early days when we were thinking about the vision for Sure Impact. And that that model where if I'm a line staff, or even if I'm a nonprofit who's asked to put data into a funder's portal, that no, there has to be something in it for me. I need, as an individual worker, as a program team manager, as an executive director, as a development director, I need value add back from our system, our people using this system. And so with Sure Impact, or if you're evaluating something else, you want to make sure that your team has the information they need. So here you're seeing a screenshot of an individual's history and their measures, and how that particular person is moving the needle on their housing self-sufficiency. But it's that information, it's that data that's being analyzed and fed back into those analytics reports, into the outcomes reports that feed the grant applications. But as line staff, I have this information at my fingertips when I need it to help me manage my own work as well. You also need, as a development director, as an executive director, as a fundraising team, one single source of truth. It's amazing to me how many nonprofits have to go to 5 or 6 different data sources to try to tell their agency's story. And so the best nonprofits are able to have all of their analytics, all of their organizations' outcomes and impact in one platform. And so you want to ask yourself, how many places am I going to be able to tell this story? We hear stories of Sure Impact users who they're going from 30 different spreadsheets down to one because they have access to everything they need. They can analyze their data by program or division line or grant, so they can narrow in to one program if they want, but they also can then zoom out into the total impact of their organization. And you need to be able to, as a development team, as a fundraising team, access the results when you need them. And so here's just a sample example of a Sure Impact dashboard. If you were a grant writer and you were putting a grant together, you could log into your analytics and know right off, without chatting with anyone, hey, we serve this many, we have this many clients in our organization, we uniquely serve this many, here's how we're moving the needle on key outcomes important to us. I've got it in percentages, I have it in beginning, end, maintained. Like, just all this information puts you well ahead of the game when you're writing a grant request or you're raising money. It just shows to your funder, your organization inside and out. You're committed to doing the best for your families and your community. And if you learn that things are not on track, you now can do something about it because you have that insights at your fingertips and you're able to use it when you need it. So in this particular, use case here, this example, as a leader, I'm able to quickly see that, wow, we're helping our families achieve their housing goals. We're able to help them have supportive transfers within their organization. We're also able to make sure they have access to SNAP. But when it looks like they're getting rental and mortgage assistance that they need, and they're able to achieve their credit history, those are not going in our right direction. So what do I need to do as a leader to improve those outcomes for our families? So I think we all would acknowledge that you need this data, that you need these systems, that you need technology. But I know, because I hear from you guys every single day, that one of the struggles you have is that impact measurement technology it might be new for you. It might not be something that you've funded before, or you don't currently have it in your budget. And so you might be asking yourself, how do I be a champion? Because although you know it as the development director, grant writer, you need this information. You don't know how to get everybody else on board, or you don't know how to raise the money for the technology so that you can have it. And there's a lot of different ways, and we have some examples we want to share with you today. So the first is there are a lot of capacity building grants out there for nonprofits, specifically around how to leverage technology to help you drive your mission. But the caveat I want to give you about when looking for those capacity building grants is that when you're writing for that particular application, you don't just want to write, I want money for impact measurement software, because the funding applications will specifically say, like, you can't use this just to replace a software system. Most funders actually do believe that nonprofits should be investing in outcomes and impact measurement technology as a part of the way they do business. So instead of talking about you want to use the money to buy a software system, because it will be an ongoing expense, what you want to do is talk about how their investment, where you incorporate the software system is helping you do the work, and what are the outcomes you'll experience because of that implementation? How will this take your nonprofit to the next level of effectiveness, the next level of impact, the ability to scale and grow and become more sustainable? That's the narrative that you need to write. Another thing that's very, very important for development and fundraising professionals to understand is that you can build impact measurement software into your program budget. Let me tell you that again. You can build impact program into your budget. Unlike maybe your fundraising costs or your marketing costs, that those things are seen as overhead, your impact measurement software is directly related to the services that you are providing to your participants. It's no different than the staff that you hire that are providing the services to your participants. Those are considered a program budget cost. So is your impact measurement software. So a great way to think about the cost of an impact measurement software platform is to write the technology in to your program budget as a per person cost or per program cost. So for example, if it's $15,000 a year for your license and you serve 1,000 people a year, then the fee is essentially $15 per client. So as you're building your program budget, you're writing in, it's $15, whatever the budget building blocks are, that it's $15 per client data management fee. And that obviously, when you think about a $15 per client expense, that's pretty reasonable in order to have access to those outcome and impact measurement data. And don't just take my word for it. This is a random thing I found I didn't even search for it. It just came up in my LinkedIn feed a few days ago. And you can see that the Shavlik Family Foundation in Minnesota, I don't know of them. If you live in Minnesota, you might want to check them out. But they are offering grants for any type of technology and project that will improve how they meet their mission. And so here's just an example of how a family foundation is investing in nonprofits to utilize technology to improve operations, program efficiency, collaboration, donor support, communication, and service delivery. Now, I would tell you that Sure Impact would allow you to do all of those things. It would support all of those things if you were trying to, if you wanted support to help you pay for Sure Impact license. So what are the next steps? We've talked about how, as a development and fundraising professional, you need impact measurement. You need that data to help you raise more money. We've talked about what you need to think about within your organization to help you get that data. Everyone is on a different journey. One thing you can do is, if you're kind of listening to this without the rest of your team, is share this recording in your slides with your team. You also can go back to our webinars website at sureimpact.com, and you can see that we've created a series of webinars. This is the last one of 4, but we also talked about how impact measurement is used by boards and executive teams, how it's used by programming, and how it's used by programming teams as well. So you can download those particular recordings and share those with the people who need to listen to them, and discuss how you will prioritize impact measurement in the new year. What steps are you going to take? Are you going to start small, start collecting that data? What do you do? How well you do it? How people are better off? But how are you going to more automate this so you have this information at your fingertips that will allow you to better tell your story? I am also offering a one-on-one consultation, because everyone's nonprofit journey is different. But talking about how to create that plan to bring the impact technology into your organization. There is no cost to these consultations at all. And I also have something very exciting to let all of you listeners on this recording live. You'll be the first people to know about it. But there is a philanthropist who has approached me and said that she very much values data-driven nonprofits. She very much values nonprofits who are leveraging technology to scale their impact, to know what their outcomes are, to ensure that they are making a difference in the communities they need. And she believes that Sure Impact is the technology that helps nonprofits do this. better. And therefore, she's making an extremely generous offer. She is basically donating $100,000 in a 50-50% match. So if there is a nonprofit who desires to become more data driven, she will basically underwrite 50% of their license fee if they will match 50% of that license fee. And this is on a first come, first serve basis. So if you are serious about impact measurement software and implementing it and becoming data driven in 2024, definitely schedule that one-on-one consultation with me as soon as possible, so you can take advantage of that particular grant opportunity. So we'll schedule a demo of Sure Impact. We'll make sure that it's right for your nonprofit, and make sure that you're ready to be able to track what you do, how you do it, and how people are better off, and get your organization the funds it needs for the future, as well as creating the impact and change in our community. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thanks so much, Sherry. So everyone go ahead and share questions in the Zoom chat if you have any more you would like. We do have a few to get us started. There was a question about how to use impact data to increase donor retention and loyalty. Can you give some examples of language you could use?
Yeah, so one thing we do know is that we have, there is evidence from Penelope Burke and others that when a nonprofit is, so let's say you make your ask and someone provides you a donation. And then when you want to follow up in, of course, thank them immediately, but then follow up in 3 months or 6 months. And when you share with them back, not just like, oh, thank you for your donation, that was great, it allowed us to, deliver our services or whatever, come back to them and say, thank you for your donation. Because of your donation, we were able to help 80% of families have stable housing. Their children were educated and stayed in their housing. Then that allowed them to better tell their, that the research shows that when they do that, that particular nonprofit gets more funding, and they get a better likelihood that that donor will invest again. They will give more at the next time. They'll go tell their friends. I get to spend a lot of time out in the community, both with philanthropists and with nonprofits. And it brings me so much joy when I hear a philanthropist or a donor share stories of why they invest in the nonprofits they invest with their other, wealthy friends, when they're talking about, when they're using the data and they're using the data to talk about why they invest. And I'm telling you, this happens all the time, that donors love to brag to their friends about the nonprofits that they support and their funding. And they do it more often because they're very business minded, right? Most donors have achieved their wealth because of being basically ruthlessly focused on the goals and metrics and data driven. So when they can then share with their friends how the nonprofits that they fund are also creating this amazing change in the community, and they're telling those stories with data, that's language that they understand and they speak, and they share those stories more than you will ever know. So great question, Laurel. Any other questions?
Yes, we have a question about how long does it take to set up? So Linda, I'm assuming you're talking about how long does Sure Impact take to set up?
Yeah, that's a great question, Linda. So Sure Impact could be set up in a matter of hours, because it is user defined. So what user defined means is that once you get a license, you can create your own measures, you can create your own programs, you can create your own services, you can create your own forms and templates. But yet we also recognize that there's a learning curve there. So we don't want you and your team to struggle with a brand new platform with a brand new technology. So our customer success team, partner success team, works with your team to identify what are the data, what are the demographic information that you want to collect, what do you call your services, what do you call your programs, we start with a few outcomes. What are those outcome measures or output measures that you want to be tracking to better tell your story? We also can provide you guidance if you want. We have a measures library built in. So if you're new to impact measurement, you don't know what you should be tracking, we can provide you guidance on what those best practice measures might be for your nonprofit. And so that particular session, takes probably a first initial call is an hour. You have some homework to bring back to us on here. These are our demographics. These are, the measures, and these are the services. And then we can get that turned around very, very quickly to then go into staff training, where we train your staff. And the staff training typically takes anywhere from a half hour to an hour. This system is very easy to use from a line staff perspective. So if you know what you want to track, that's the big thing. If you know what you want to track, you're set up in a week or two. If you, are going to take a while to figure out what you want to track, then it might take a little longer, or there might be a little more iteration, but we're here with you. And now is a very, very good time to say yes, because if you say yes now, we can get you set up and start tracking in January. And as you imagine, with the new year happening, if you start tracking in January, when it comes around to next December, you now have a full year for your annual reports and to tell your story. But great question. Doesn't take very long. We also do all of your, if you have former data you want uploaded into the system, historical data uploaded into the system, we have no extra charge for that. That is included in your license price.
Perfect, thank you. So next question. Do you have any recommendations for how I can position our organization as a champion of change for our Giving Tuesday campaign?
Wow, that is a great question. And I'm glad you're thinking about champions of change for Giving Tuesday. So I think it's related to thinking about, your mission. So what is that mission that your organization has, that you're sharing, that, vision, mission, values in your typical Giving Tuesday campaign, but in your invitation to get someone to give to your organization, showing them the impact and outcome story that you produced last year, can talk about, we invite you to come on this journey with us, with your donation. I love this metric, and we didn't talk about it in this presentation, although I'm sure we can find other recordings of it where we do talk about this, is this metric cost per success, not cost per service, but cost per success. And you can only calculate a cost per success if you have a success outcome measure. But let's say housing stability was your measure, and you knew that 80% of those you served had achieved a stable housing, and you served 100 people. So now you have 80 people who were successful at achieving that housing. You can take the total cost of your program divided by 80 people. Now you have the cost per success. So in your Giving Tuesday appeal, you can say to a particular donor, that 80% of the families we serve have achieved housing stability. We hope to increase that in the coming year, but we know that if you donate, let's just say cost per success ended up being $1,500. If you donate $1,500, we can guarantee we can get at least one person stably housed. Now, when you're making that ask, you're telling the donor how they can engage with your organization to make a change. And if they're, a very wealthy person, they might be like, wow, well, I want to get 10 families stably housed. So now you've got not just a $1,500 check, now you have a $150,000 check, because they understand how their money will not just go to work in your nonprofit, but go to make the lives of people even better. Yeah, I was going to tell you about our next webinar. And if you have any more questions in the next few minutes, just feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat. But we are committed at Sure Impact to not just be a technology provider, but to because we believe that technology is just a tool to help you achieve your missions, and we want a thriving nonprofit ecosystem. And so we're going to do a mini webinar. We know in December you have a lot of things on your plate, but we are committed to continue to provide you education and resources to help you be the very best nonprofits you can be. So we'll be doing a mini webinar in December, early December, or no, I'm sorry, it's in late February or late November, right, Laurel?
November 13th.
November 13th, thank you. On the 3 must-do actions in December 2023. So I know we all, after Giving Tuesday, we all just want to check out and not even think about our organization again until January 1st or 2nd, I guess, January 2nd. But there are a few things that you will want to do in December to position yourself, you know, in a really great place as you kick off the new year. So we'll just do a mini webinar. It means it's like just 30 minutes or so, just 3 quick actions that you should be thinking about to do before the next year. Any more questions, Laurel?
So we have another question from Linda about the cost of a license for Sure Impact.
That's a great question. And as all, funding questions go, the answer is it depends. It depends on how many programs you have on the license or on the organization. But it will say that the starting point is around 400, and I don't have the direct number, but let's say $420 a month. But it's going to scale depending on the number of programs and other things on your license. But I do invite you, Linda, for us to have a call after this, schedule a consultation, and we can just talk about your needs and what's best for your organization.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for attending our webinar today. As Sherry mentioned, make sure to join us on November 13th at 1 p.m. Eastern for our mini webinar. I will be sending out the link to the webinar for registration when I send out the webinar recording and slides a little bit later this week. If you have any follow-up questions for Sherry, her email is on this slide. And we appreciate you being part of the Sure Impact community and hope you have a great day.
All right. Thank you, Laurel. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.